Mhm.
All right, so you'll see a recording notice now coming up. And again, I want to welcome you on behalf of Fairfax County Public Library. I'm Deb Smith-Cohen with Patrick Henry Library, and hosting this on behalf of Adrian Leo from the Reston branch. And we're glad to have you here. I'm going to fade and let Barb Hoffman, who's our host today, take over. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming to the second and final mystery author extravaganza hosted by the Chesapeake chapter of Sisters in Crime. This is our, well, not really kickoff anymore because we're in the middle of December, but it's our kickoff to the holiday season, our way of letting authors in our chapter talk about their new books and stories that have been published this year. We have 16 authors who are going to be sharing all their good stuff with you in just a few minutes. I just want to get through a couple small things. In case you don't know, Sisters in Crime is an international organization with 4,500 members and 60 plus chapters across the world. And the goal of Sisters in Crime is inclusivity, and as long as you support diversity, you support us and we support you. And if you're not a member, we hope you will join. You can learn more at www.sistersincrime.org. And if you want to learn more about our chapter, that is www.chessechapter.org. Our sponsoring bookstore today is Scrawl Books of Reston, Virginia. If you got the handout, which is a download that you could get through the library website or our chapter website, we're going to be going through author by author alphabetically. And what you'll see on the handout is a copy of the cover of each person's book that they're going to be talking about, or that they could talk about, that they've had out this year. And the benefit of that is that you have it right in front of you, everything they're going to be talking about. So you can look at that and go, oh my God, Karen Cantwell's book is going to be perfect for my sister. I'm going to circle it. I'm going to write sis right next to her name, so you won't forget. So that you can then click right over to Scrawl Books link, which is going to be in the chat repeatedly, and you can just buy it from them. Everything so simple. If you have any questions for any of the authors, please put them in the chat and they will try to, take a look as it's going. And depending on how the timing goes, we might have time for a little chat at the end with the authors. And that is all I have to say. Take it away, Bill Ade.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Barb. It's always great. This is one of my favorite activities. I just miss seeing everyone in person. 2021 has been a pretty good year for me. It's been more creating than publishing, but I did have one huge success, at least in my mind. In May of this year, Level Best Books put out my novel, Do It for Daisy. The story is about Tommy Lyle, a hapless man who really only has one person in his life who loves him, and that's his big sister, Daisy. Unfortunately, Daisy just pushed her wealthy husband to his death in the middle of Tommy's dinner party. So the story is about Daisy demanding Tommy's loyalty as he helps her navigate a revengeful mother-in-law, a crooked medical examiner, and a steely-eyed trustee to secure her ill-gotten inheritance. Now, I do have a second novel coming out next week. It's called The Next 100 Years. It's a sci-fi novel about a brilliant scientist struggling to be a good husband, father, and brother as the world crumbles around him. But what I'm excited is that I'm using Kindle Vella to put it out as a serialization. And the first episode will be available starting next week. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I guess I'm next. I'm Ellen Byerrum, and I am so delighted to be here. And first, I want to say thank you to Barb Goffman, to Sisters in Crime Chesapeake chapter, the Fairfax County Library System, and Scrawl Books for putting this all together. I couldn't be happier to be here. And also, I couldn't be happier to announce that my book, The Brief Luminous Flight of the Firefly, came out yesterday. And I'm also delighted to note that Scrawl Books has them on hand, so yay. this book has been a long time coming, and I know that I have told a lot of you that I was working on it, and I tend to blab about my books for years before they actually become real. But I think that is a way of keeping myself accountable to what I expect to do, my goals. So yes, I've talked about Firefly for years, and it is now here. Firefly is the story of Mimi Smith. She is a young woman who goes to work in Washington, D.C. She lives in Alexandria, Virginia, and she's working for the war effort. It is June 1943, and people are really, really tired of this long war. And it reminds me that I am really, really tired of this long pandemic. So I think there are a lot of parallels that I found doing my research. Frustrations and challenges that they had in 1943 and throughout the war, and that we are facing today. But Mimi goes to Washington. Let me check my time here. I don't want to run over. So Mimi goes and she works for the Office of Price Administration. And this was a problem for me because I had mentioned it in one of the Lacey Smithsonian books. Firefly is the prequel to my Crime of Fashion series. And it takes place about 70 years before the Crime of Fashion series. So I thought, okay, Office of Price Administration, that sounds interesting. Well, everybody else who writes a World War II book has their people work for OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which is the spy agency, which is very sexy. And yet I have met people who work for OSS. I think they're probably gone now, but even 60 years later, they refused to talk about what they did for that agency during the war. So it might have been trickier getting information, but OPA, the Office of Price Administration, handles rationing, price limits. For instance, a bottle of whiskey was $2. You couldn't price it higher than that. There are restaurants that I've seen that have their price lists left over from the war, and how much you could spend and how much they could take. But the problem is that everybody hated the Office of Price Administration. So even Mimi, as she works for it, at one point tells her boss, she goes, it's not like it's murder, these small infractions. And he says, don't kid yourself, sister. People will commit all kinds of crimes for all kinds of reasons. There's murder afoot whenever money is involved. And so Mimi discovers she lives with a woman who is a beekeeper and has honey. She has a thriving honey business because, as we might all know, sugar was rationed during the war, and people were desperate to get sugar. Tires were rationed, gasoline was rationed. You could only have 2 pairs of leather shoes per year. So it really weighed on people. So there is this huge burglary of, whoops. Oh, I thought that was my time. There was a lot of trouble. So that her landlady's sugar, 1,000 pounds of sugar, is stolen, and that leads Mimi to trace a plot of killing ladies of the evening in Alexandria and into moonshine in West Virginia. So she goes to West Virginia. I'd like to point out that travel was also very difficult during the war, and because you might not get a seat because you'd have to let the soldiers in on the train, the soldiers, the sailors, the Marines, the flyboys. Difficult to get around, to get around today. So it was a challenging time, and so is today. But Mimi also, she loves fashion. And for everyone who reads my Crime of Fashion mysteries, I just want you to know that, yes, you will find out the origin of Mimi's trunk of bottomless fashions. So there are fashions, there is style, there's dancing, there are mentions of music, and I guess I should stop talking and let someone else go. So thank you very much. So happy to be here.
You're muted.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. I am not a technical person. I'm a cozy writer, and I'm here to speak to you today as Emmie Caldwell, which I've written my new series, the Craft Fair Knitters Mystery Series, as under Emmie Caldwell. But I am Mary Ellen Hughes, and I've written 11 other cozy mysteries as well, which you can find out about on my websites. But today I'm talking about my latest release, Stitched in Crime, which was released 4 days ago. Exciting. And it's book number 2 of the Craft Fair Mystery Series, Knitters Mystery Series. Book number 1 was A Wicked Yarn, and in it, as the series says, it concerns craft fairs and knitters. And book number 1, my main character Leah joins a craft fair, and she is a knitting enthusiast. And she's is manning a booth for her fellow knitting group of 5 enthusiastic knitters who, besides knitting, do some murder investigation as the need arises. And in the first book, A Wicked Yarn, a body is discovered in the middle of the craft fair barn, which is devastating to the craft fair itself, but Leah helps solve that murder. And in Stitched in Crime, the craft fair has just started to recover as far as people coming again and feeling safe. And part of the reason that is increasing the popularity is they have a new vendor who is a crochet artist. She makes beautiful crochet art, and her work is very popular. The crowds are coming again, but unfortunately, she is found dead fairly soon at the base of a tall waterfall. And this is shocking in itself, but then Leah discovers that Corey, this crochet artist, had claimed as a child to have witnessed a murder in that very same spot. So what seems to be an accident, and some people are even saying suicide, suddenly starts to look like a murder. And Leah and her knitting group start asking questions and getting into what really might happen, and was there a murder 25 years ago that Corey actually witnessed. She's not a terribly reliable witness for the age of the time that she actually claimed to have seen this. So it's kind of an involved story there. And as a side story, I bring in Leah's daughter, her adult daughter, who comes to work at an alpaca farm near Crandallsburg. She's not mucking stalls. She's working as a marketing business person. And I bring in the alpaca farm in several scenes after having visited an alpaca farm in Maryland, which I found absolutely delightful to visit those animals, and that I've got to put in some of these scenes in my book, which I have done. And I bring in the murder as well, because one of the people that Haley, the daughter, is working with, dealing with, is also one of the suspects of Corey's murder. So we have crafts, we have knitting, we have animals, and we have murder. So if you like any of those, or if you have somebody on your gift list, this just might be the book for you, Stitched in Crime. And I think our next person is Karen Cantwell.
Hi, thank you. My name is Karen Cantwell, and you want to buy my book for your sister. The book is Murder on the Beach, and I am the author of the Barbara Marr Murder Mystery Series, of which a Barbara Marr short story, Coastbusters, appears again in Murder on the Beach, which you want to buy for your sister. Murder on the Beach is a short story collection, which actually I co-published with my friend Kathy Wiley, who is also a Chesapeake chapter member. And we have 8 short stories in here. I've got my short story in here. Kathy Wiley has a short story. Barb has a short story. Eleanor, who you're going to talk to. And they're all beach themed, cozy mysteries. Coastbusters takes place in Delray, Florida. As I mentioned, it features Barbara Marr, my director in my Barbara Marr Murder Mystery series. She and her friends fly to Delray, Florida, where, as often happens for Barb, she finds a dead body and chaos ensues. It's highly rated. It's doing very nicely. They're very fun stories. They're meant to just be a nice, light beach read. If you buy this for yourself or your sister, I think you'll enjoy them enough that you might even consider getting the next one that comes out in February called Murder in the Mountains. And that's it from me.
I guess I'm up. I'm Diane Davidson. I write with my sister, Mary Ann Davidson, under the nickname Maddi, or the pen name Maddi Davidson. We've written novels and short stories. This year, we've had 3 short stories published. I'll talk briefly about each of them. Who Let the Llamas Out was published in Crimacopia. Our protagonist, Jackson, lives in a cabin just outside Lost Falls, Idaho, and like many of us, he'd like to have a bit more money. Unlike many of us, I hope, he's willing to knock over a jewelry store to get it. However, he's faced with a small problem. The town's jewelry store is located just a few blocks from the police station. So Jackson, with the help of his friend Colt, hatches a plan to sneak into the local zoo at night and release some of the animals. Surely the police will need to send all their units north to cope with the wandering wildlife, leaving the jewelry store with only its alarm for protection. What could possibly go wrong? Well, nothing, except Jackson's partner Colt falls in love with one of the monkeys and brings it along for the caper. It's just one of more than 20 stories that will make you laugh, groan, or hopefully at least smile. So worth getting for yourself or for friends. The second story is Killer Fashion. It's in an anthology called Asinine Assassins. Keep the neckline low and your tatas high, and no one will ever remember your face, or so believes our protagonist, a young woman who joins the family business of killers for hire. She believes one can be both a killer and utterly stylish. Despite a few hiccups, she's enjoying her new career until she's assigned to kill a well-known fashion designer. This story is one of 24 stories of inept, brainless, or ridiculous hired guns, assassins, and murderers. The third story is Sophronai Snefua in Misspelled Magic Gone Awry. Sophrona is a fairy godmother of indeterminate age, but she's determined to find a Prince Charming for her 23-year-old goddaughter, Cassidy, even though Cassidy doesn't really want her help. Nevertheless, Sophrona is anxious for Cassidy to wed and procreate. Sophrona would just love to have more godchildren. However, her eyesight isn't what it used to be, and she's a bit hard of hearing. Oh, and she needs a new wand. So as Sophrona mumbles, bumbles, and stumbles through her spells, poor Cassidy is approached by canines, swinging couples, and lascivious old men looking for love. Is Sophrona's dream of more godchildren doomed by her own mistakes? Read it and find out. Thanks for your attention.
Well, hello there. I guess I'm up next. My name is Eleanor Cawood Jones, and I write short stories. I always mean to write novels, but I write short stories. And this year was a good year for me. I kind of went back in time and remembered why I was writing. And I started writing when I was a kid for the fun of it. I didn't know what submitting was, and I didn't know anything about that. So this was a good year for writing stories that I think are fun, and hopefully you will too. I accidentally created a short story mystery series this year. I'm up to story number 4 now. The first one appeared in Murder by the Glass, a cozy anthology, and it's called Breaking Glass. and I make amazing graphics. This is how breaking glass is spelled. It looks backwards, Brayking. And there is a little donkey in the story, even though it's about two best friends who end up at a wine festival in Virginia. And they're really mad because they can't get in because there's a dead body on the scene. So chaos and fun ensues. And then I wrote a longer story starring my sleuths, Martha and Lori, and their friends for Karen and Kathy's book, Murder on the Beach, the one with the amazing cover. And that one was much longer. And the name of the story in that one is called Cabo San Loco, based extremely loosely on a long and tourist trap-filled trip that I took to Cabo San Lucas. And I was having trouble coming up with an idea for the story, and I got called to jury duty for a really gruesome trial. Fortunately, I didn't make the final cut on that one, but I was staring out the window, waiting in line for jury duty, and I started thinking about what would happen if a bunch of women met on a jury and got sequestered and stayed friends afterwards. And maybe one of them would be really wealthy enough to fly the whole group down to Cabo San Lucas for a fun-filled and yet danger-wrought vacation. And the third story I had come out this year is, this might look backwards too, I don't know. It's in the Boulder Anthology, which is bold and daring stories that you wouldn't dare to place elsewhere. The name of my story in that one is All My Exes Die in Texas. And it's a real short one, and I had a lot of fun writing it, and the anthology is a ton of fun. So that's the three that are on the flyer, and I'm happy to tell you that I actually have a surprise story coming out any minute now, just as soon as Black Cat Weekly launches its weekly email. I'll be the featured short story this time, and I worked with Barb Goffman on that. I really appreciate her help in seeing this one into print. This will be the weirdest thing I ever write, and hopefully the funniest. I hope you think so too. It's called The Importance of Being Earnest. And if you think that title has already been taken, Earnest is actually spelled Urnest. And there's a destination wedding. And my sleuth, Lori, is off to the wedding. And her groomsman date for the weekend is not exactly what she expected. She expected him to be under 6 feet, but he's actually 6 feet under. Lori and Martha coming out next year in the next Murder on the Beach book. So we'll see you guys then. And thanks for coming out today. He under 6 feet, but he's actually 6 feet under. Lori and Martha coming out next year in the next Murder on the Beach book. So we'll see you guys then. And thanks for coming out today.
Everybody, hopefully you can hear me. My name is Flo Mccann, but I write under the pseudonym of Millie Mack. And before I start, I of course want to thank the library system, Deb, for being here today, Barb Goffman, and of course Sisters in Crime. What a wonderful organization, and what fun for today. I'm talking about my latest book. It's called Take the Spirit of Murder. It's baffling, destructive incidents, ghostly sightings, and murder confront Carrie and Charles Faraday in this fourth book in my cozy mystery series. My two main characters, Mr. and Mrs. Faraday, are amateur sleuths in the style of Nick and Noir. Charles, Mr. and Mrs. North, Jonathan and Jennifer Hart. So that's sort of their characteristics. They married late in life, but since they met, they've solved 3 murders. They first met when they solved the murder of Charles's brother, Jamie. Then Carrie was charged with the murder of a prominent playboy. And then last summer, they solved the murder involving her father's computer company. They love a good murder, but now they're ready for some relaxation, and they're deciding where they want to go on vacation. Now, while they're selecting reading material to take on their holiday at their local bookstore, the Tri-County Bookstore, that's a plug for local independent bookstores, sisters Maddie and Marge announced that their family owns a century-old country inn with a rich history in the northern part of the state. And perhaps because of all the history, guests are repeatedly seeing apparitions, everything from Civil War soldiers, a lady dancing down the hallway. Sometimes people hear unexplained sounds of music or voices. But these previously friendly spirits, which everybody seems to have enjoyed, are now causing problems. Guests are being told to get out, and property is being destroyed, and reservations and bookings are falling. So these incidents all have a financial impact on the family's Milford Manor Hotel. So the couple was invited to see if they can figure out what's going on. And actually, it's a perfect situation. The couple can enjoy a holiday at the family inn and then have the challenge of an intriguing puzzle to solve. Now, they'll be going undercover. Carrie is posing as a writer to create a new marketing brochure, which will give the couple access to behind-the-scenes locations. And the couple was somewhat pleasantly surprised to find that the Milford Manor is actually a large resort with several restaurants and multiple amenities. So their goal was to solve this problem quickly, to figure out what's going on with all this inactivity, and then they can sit back and enjoy their vacation. However, they have barely started their investigation when an employee is murdered. The shooting of Ken Harvey, the hotel's event manager, changes everything. Was he part of the problem? Or was he murdered because he discovered what the problem was, what the plot was? Now, while trying to solve this murder, Carrie is also experiencing some of the ghostly activity that other guests have reported. She believes she's encountered Roxy, the murdered girlfriend of the former manager from back in the 1950s. Carrie can't explain what she's seeing, and Charles is sure there must be a reasonable explanation. Surely ghosts are not causing Milford Manor's problems. But the couple must use all of their sleuthing skills to uncover clues and suspects, both human and ghostly. But it's not until the final deadly confrontation with the bad guys, the culprits, that the problem is solved for Milford Manor. When you buy this book, buy it in two so that you can read it with a friend so you don't get scared from the ghost and the ghostly activity within the book. And before I turn it over to the next author, I just want to say that whether you're buying my book, one of the other fine books mentioned today, or another one on your holiday list, as mentioned in my story, I mentioned an independent bookstore, and please support Scrolls Books today for helping us out at this event. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, for those of you following along in the handout, we switched. So I'm Tara Liskowski, and I am the author of The Mother Next Door, which is my second standalone suspense novel. My first one came out a couple years ago, and this one came out this past October. And it's sort of my homage to Halloween, which is my favorite time of the year. It's my favorite holiday, and it's my birthday. So it was really fun to sort of explore Halloween and just write about all of the creepy things that go on during that time. But it's also a story about moms and about friendships and about secrets. So there's a group of moms in my book called the IV5, and they all live on a cul-de-sac, and they all put on this annual Halloween block party every year. That's pretty famous in their area, their community. And so this year they're getting ready to put it on, except that someone is threatening to expose a secret that they have been holding dear to them for many years from their past. And so they're trying to figure out who this is. Is it the new mom who's just moved into the cul-de-sac and who desperately wants to be a part of this IV5 group? Or is it someone from the neighborhood who maybe wanted to be in the group but wasn't cool enough to be in this clique? Or could it be a former member of the IV5 who sort of got booted out when she wasn't holding up her own? So as the Halloween countdown clock, ticks closer, and they're preparing for their party and they're trying to figure out what's going on and what's going to happen. It really is a test to see what these moms will do, like how far they'll go to keep this a secret, and how far they'll go to protect themselves and their families and their communities. So I'm very excited about it. I hope that you guys will pick it up and read it. And if that synopsis doesn't convince you, then I will tell you that the New York Times book review called it bonkers but satisfying. So there's my winning endorsement of it. That's all. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Misty Simon. I also write as Gabby Allen. This year I tried something a little new. I did some self-publishing and did some short stories. They are grouped, called Magically Suspicious Mysteries. So it's set at a Ren Fair, and Verla runs the Ren Fair, and everyone there does not do the thing paranormally that they're supposed to. So the werewolf can only change his nose and his tail. And so they've kind of grouped together. I liken it to the island of misfit toys in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which is perfect for this time of year. And they're a lot of fun. There's a lot going on in the Ren Fair that's never happened before. So they are trying to figure things out, keep themselves safe, and also, not fall down the rabbit hole at the same time. So there are 6 of those that you can go over. They're all through Amazon. And then I also changed names this year briefly. And that is that's shiny. Much Ado About Nauticaling, I am now also writing under the name Gabby Allen. And these are set off the coast of California, on Catalina Island. She owns a glass bottom boat business with her brother. And the first one is Much Ado About Nauticaling. That came out in July. The next one will be Something Fishy This Way Comes. That will come out next July. And then the third one I actually just got contracted for, although I'm not sure what book I'm writing. I know that there will be a third one, just not what it's about yet. And they're a lot of fun. It's been interesting. Kensington is putting them out in a newish genre that they are coining as rom cozy. So it's a rom-com and a cozy, I say, sitting on a beach drinking a Mai Tai. So they also are a lot of fun. I am going to also be doing more Tally Graver mysteries, which I did with Kensington, but now I'll be doing them on my own. And so it's been quite the ride. This year's been, I know, a lot for a lot of different people. I hope in that you are going to find the best times this holiday, and then also, be so very in the moment for all the little things to be able to enjoy every single one of them. And that is just my wish for you. And I hope that you're reading a book while it happens.
See what's going on here.
I can do that. For those of you that can't see me in the little tiny picture at the top, I'm wearing some blaze because I'm going to say aloha. My name is Rosalie Spielman, and I'm here to offer you a respite from the cold weather. My new book that you may not be able to see is Death Under the Sea, and it's set in Hawaii, and it takes a dip into the world of scuba diving. Death Under Sea is the 16th book in the Aloha Lagoon, the Aloha Lagoon mystery series by Gemma Halliday Publishing. There's, like I said, 16 books and 9 authors. We all have our own main characters, but we share the police detective, and sometimes the characters come into each other's books. So the readers really like that, and it's a lot of fun. Those books don't need to be read in order. Oh, thank you, Sherry. Okay, so my book, Death Under the Sea, was released last month. In it, we meet Kiki Hepburn, who is on a secretive worldwide dive tour to avoid going home to her wealthy parents. Her mother, of course, wants her to marry a wealthy man, and her dad wants her to work for the company. She doesn't really want to do either one of those. So unfortunately, they send a private investigator after her. And of course, being a mystery, he ends up dead and she ends up the suspect. Then some old friends from prep school show up with their dysfunctional families, and they have no problem throwing her under the bus to keep her a suspect. Kiki discovers, though, that she is not the only one that has connections to the dead PI. In an effort to stay under the radar, Kiki moves out of the resort and into Auntie Akamai's backyard. Auntie Akamai is a pet mom to a foul-mouthed parrot and aunt to Dex, who is the hot dive guy. Kiki, of course, falls for all of them, and with their help, she and some sea creatures, she evades the killer and brings them to justice. As one reviewer on Amazon said, a beautiful setting, a fantastic mystery, and a talking parrot. What more do you need? It's probably good if I quote that correctly. Okay, so the book is available wherever you get your ebooks. Paperback is print on demand and currently only available from Amazon. I don't know if Scrawls can get it because it's print on demand. And here's my website, www.rosalie-spielman-author.com. I would love to keep you informed on Death Under the Sea and my next Aloha Lagoon book. So you can please subscribe to my newsletter. It's the next one comes out next month. So mahalo. And I wanted to remind everybody that even if you can't buy all these books today, you can always request them at your local library, like at Fairfax. And that's a gift for you, for the author, and for many other readers. So happy holidays and stay safe. And the next speaker is Marsha Talley.
Oh, here we go. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi, I'm Marcia Talley, and I'm also coming to you from a warm place. I'm in the Bahamas. You can see the ceiling fan is going in the back. We spend part of our winter down here. And it's an interesting place to be because where we were was ground zero for Hurricane Dorian, which literally wiped most of our homes off the face of the earth. So we're just 2.5 years later and we're finally back in our house. So anyway, I'm here to talk to you about my latest book. This is Done Gone. It is number 18 in the Hannah Ives mystery series. And like the earlier ones, it's set in Annapolis, Maryland, or in and around Maryland, although I occasionally allow Hannah to go on vacation. There's one book set in the Bahamas. I can't imagine where the inspiration for that one came from. But anyway, Done Gone, it came out of an actual experience that my husband's mother had a number of years ago. Hannah is part of a supper club. They meet once a month and they do dinner parties with themes. And this is Italian night. It's at her house. And everybody brings something. And about 10 minutes after the dinner is supposed to start, Hannah is worried because her across the street neighbor, Trish, and her husband, Peter, haven't showed up, which is very unlikely. So she goes across the street. She has a house key. When they don't answer their phone, she lets herself in because she takes care of their cat sometimes. And it appears the couple has just vanished into thin air. There's dishes on the table. There doesn't seem to be no clothes missing. And even when Hannah tries to call her friend, the cell phone is ringing right there in the house. So she is very worried and tries to figure out what happened. About 2 days later, she gets a phone call, and surprisingly, it's from Trish. And Trish says, "I'll explain it all to you. Meet me in the parking lot at Trader Joe's." So Hannah goes to meet her friend and is surprised when her friend shows up heavily disguised with a wig and makeup and big glasses. And Trish tells Hannah that her real name isn't Trish, that her real name is Elizabeth Stefano, that she ran away from home when she was 14, and that she's still on the lam from something, but she hasn't said what. And she presses into Hannah's hand a USB drive and says, there's something big is about to hit the news. And if you don't hear anything within 2 weeks, I want you to take this to a reporter at the Washington Post, and she names the reporter. And at that point, somebody shoots Trish very seriously through the head, although she doesn't die right away. So while Trish is in the shock trauma ward up in Baltimore, Hannah has to go off and figure out who her friend actually is, what she's running away from. And it becomes very, very clear that as Hannah starts looking into it, the stakes are very, very high. And the deeper she goes into Trish's past, the more dangerous it becomes. So that's done, gone. Number 18, I just signed a contract for 2 more. So we'll take the series up to 20 if I should live so long. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Hi, I'm Art Taylor, and the last 2 years have been a blur for me, like it has been for many people. 2020, last year, was a milestone year in many ways. Just on the eve of the pandemic, my collection, The Boy Detective and the Summer of '74, was published by Crippen and Landru. I bring that up because I'm grateful that this year, the title story from the collection won a Derringer Award, alongside a couple of other Derringer Award winners this year, our chapter members, Eleanor earlier and Stacy coming up. And the story was also nominated for an Agatha, an Anthony, and a McCavity Award. I'm grateful that Rachel at Scrawl Books does have copies for sale. That said, 2020 milestone year last year was not the most productive writing year for many reasons that you can imagine, at least in terms of word count. And that's reflected in the 2 stories that I did have published this year. Both of them are very brief. Little Martha appeared in Trouble No More. This is crime fiction inspired by Southern rock and the blues. My story, Little Martha, is actually one of the Allman Brothers' shortest songs, if not the shortest song. It is an instrumental song, and my story is 415 words. It does, however, cover several decades in the life of the title character. So the other story, Ornamental, My Dear Watson, is a standalone story. It was a late Christmas giveaway by my publisher, Crippen and Landru. Also shows I was very slow on writing. It didn't come out until January of 2021. I was inspired by William Maxwell's story, Lily White Boys, The Lily White Boys, which is a great holiday story. In mine, A Christmas Burglary calls a well-known crime-solving duo into action, but it's not quite as you might remember them. The title, Ornamental, My Dear Watson, gives a clue. I do have some extra copies of Ornamental, My Dear Watson, and I'm glad to give those out to anyone who buys a copy of the collection from Scrawl Books. I talked to Rachel about it. She's going to have those as part of a giveaway there. So if you get a copy of The Boy Detective, you'll get a copy as well of Ornamental, My Dear Watson. Thanks to Rachel for helping to coordinate that. I'm giving my thumbs up and passing it along to Grace. Grace, you're next.
You've changed.
Oh, hello, Grace. I'm Stacey Woodson. I think I'm going next. I think I'll be followed by Grace instead. First of all, I want to thank the Fairfax County Library System for hosting us today and the wonderful readers who are here. I had 1 novella and 3 short stories published this year. My novella, 2 Tamales, 1 Tokoro, and A Lifetime of Broken Promises, I don't know if y'all can see that or not, is episode 14 in Guns and Tacos, which is a serialized anthology from Down and Out Books. Each episode set in Chicago and features a taco truck that sells illicit weapons. Vivian, an ex-con turned prison minister, discovers her brother, Tommy, is in debt to the Chicago outfit, and they're calling the note 20 grand plus the juice. If Tommy doesn't come up with the money in 72 hours, he will be a permanent resident of Lake Michigan. And as kids, Vivian and her brother grew up on the streets and lived by a set of rules. Number 1, no drugs. Number 2, no turning tricks. And number 3, no tangling with the mob. And they'd have each other's back always. But Vivian can't abandon her brother despite the risk to her church and the new life she's built for herself. So she comes up with a plan, a way to turn the tables on the outfit and save her brother. An East Side bookie, a taco truck, and a Russian-made pistol are key. But even she knows the plan is a long shot. There's a reason why Vivian made rule number 3. When it comes to the mob, someone always pays a price. Of course they do. It's crime fiction, right? My next story appeared in Jukes and Tonks, which I have here as well. This one is in paperback, as well as e-form. It's a wonderful anthology from Down and Out Books featuring short stories, not only by me, but S.A. Cosby. You may have heard of Sean. He's the author of Blacktop Wasteland and Razorblade Tears, and other notable authors from the short fiction mystery community, such as Michael Bracken and John Floyd. Destroying a honky-tonk should have been just another ordinary job. The place and the patrons, however, are anything but ordinary. And a fixer has a crisis of conscience, a professional liability he can't afford in my story called The Ropes. Next up is Last Rites, which appeared in Black Hat Mystery Magazine from Wildside Press. And this is about a soldier confined to his bed at a military hospital. He's a brigade commander desperate to figure out if his men are dying from combat-related injuries or if they're victims of a serial killer. Bum, 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 bum. And finally, Mickey Finn, 21st Century Noir, Volume 2. I have a story in there. It's another anthology from Down and Out Books, and it comes out today in e-form. Oh, here it is. And emotions run high when a soldier is forced to team up with his wife's lover to win a parachute competition, my story called The Final Fall. This anthology also includes a story from Chessie Chapter member, the talented Josh Patcher, who isn't here with us today, but I wanted to go ahead and mention him. And that's it for my 2021 stories. Again, many thanks to all of you for being here today and wishing you all happy holidays. Now I'm turning it over to Grace.
Thank you. First of all, it's such a pleasure to be here with all the talented writers from Chesapeake chapter of Sisters in Crime. I'd like to say for all of you people who are not members or you're aspiring writers, that I wouldn't be published today if it hadn't been for Sisters in Crime and the support that I received from all of the members and from the Guppy chapter. So if you're considering publishing or writing and publishing, do consider joining Sisters in Crime. And we also have a lot of fan members. So I'm the author of the Laura Bishop Mystery Series. The 3rd book in my series came out this past April, Upstaged by Murder. Laura is a homestager. And in this book, she's convinced to enter a competition to become the next TV homestaging star, which is the last thing in the world that she wants to do, but she agrees only because of the publicity it'll give her business and it'll help out some of her employees. She knew it would be murder, you know, behind the scenes at a TV recording, but she didn't expect it to include a body. If you like HGTV, home decorating, and mysteries with a dash of humor, consider a fun, cozy mystery for the holidays. It takes the stress off of life. You know, you need a little humor in your mystery writing. So please consider a lightweight, cozy mystery. The other thing that I contributed to this year is a cookbook by mystery writers. The Mystery Writers Cookbook, The Secret Ingredient, was put out by many of the authors of mysteries who are represented by Don Dowdle of the Blue Ridge Literary Agency. It's a collection of recipes that are from the authors, along with a description of their books, but also some of them extracted from their books. If you're interested in a recipe for an English sherry trifle, get the book, you'll get my recipe. Anyway, for those who observe Christmas, a very Merry Christmas to you, and to everyone else, a very Happy New Year. And I look forward to all of the books that you have coming out next year. And in the meantime, enjoy many of the books that you've heard about today.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Eleanor again. I am pinch hitting today. for Susan Reiss. She couldn't be here today. She's under the weather. But I do have a little write-up that she has given me about her brand new book, which is doing really, really well. If you don't know Susan, you should. She's absolutely delightful. Her past work includes work as a concert pianist, and she's also a multiple award-winning television author. Years ago, I met her. I read her first book in her Silver series called Tarnished Silver, and I really enjoyed it. So there's my endorsement of her, and I'll tell you about her new book, which is called Letters in Time. And it sounds absolutely intriguing, so I'm going to have to get this one too. Making a list, Scrawl Books. Here we go. This is what she has to say about the book. It's based in the Chesapeake Bay, which is known for its natural vistas, boating, the blue crab, and mystery stories. Set on the Maryland Eastern Shore and the village of St. Michael's, which is named as one of the 1,000 places to see before you die. And by that book by Patricia Schultz. The historical background of the area inspired Susan to write a new novel called Letters in Time. It's a story that combines historical fiction and a murder mystery. It begins when Emma Chase moves to a quaint cottage outside St. Michael's that she inherited from her Uncle Jack. Of course, she wants to rest and recover from a horrendous car accident that almost took her life. When the movers find an antique plantation desk hidden in the garage, she hasn't moved into the cottage. The next morning, a mysterious letter dated 1862 appears on the desk, signed by a stranger named Daniel, who declares his love for Emma. So should she answer someone who lived more than 150 years ago? Does she believe in ghosts? Then the police arrive to investigate a murder committed across the creek from her cottage. And then she has to wonder, is she in danger? Emma worries that there's a connection between the murder and the letter. Does Daniel hold the secret that can save her from a murderer? When the book was released as a standalone novel last May, a lot of people wanted to know when book 2 was coming, and that means that a new series is born. And book 2, Diaries in Time, Susan will be putting that out in mid-January. Happy to stand in for you. Hope you feel better.
All right, I'm on. My name's Eileen McIntire, and I was late. Sorry about that. I thought it was at 2. Imagine my surprise when I tuned in at 1:45. So anyway, going on. My latest novel is a colorful caper of historical suspense entitled The House on Hate-Monger Hill. Let's see if we can get it. The House on Hate-Monger Hill. Here we go. It's set in Washington, D.C. in 1964. And to put it in place, just a year before, in 1963, Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech, and John F. Kennedy was assassinated. In 1964, the landmark Civil Rights Bill was battling its way through Congress. The heroine of my book, Sue Millard, leads an unexceptional life as a college student majoring in English. Her aunt offers free room and board to Sue in return for watching her house and managing the boarders who live there while she's away on travel. Sue supports the Civil Rights Bill and equal rights and feels bad about not being more of an activist. Then she discovers the boarders are plotting to steal a fortune from the head of the U.S. Nazi Party, George Lincoln Rockwell, and donate the stash to civil rights organizations to support the Civil Rights Bill in Congress. Plain, timid Sue Millard turns femme fatale as she's pulled into the plot. It's perfectly planned, nothing can go wrong, but there's a glitch and Rockwell finds out who robbed him. Sue becomes caught in an escalating campaign of terror as she fights for her life against Rockwell's battle to retrieve his money. I took the descriptions of George Lincoln Rockwell, who was a real figure, and the house too, from the well-researched and reviewed book, American Führer, George Lincoln Rockwell and the American Nazi Party by Frederick J. Simonelli. The house, in case you want to see where it was at 6150 Wilson Boulevard in Arlington. And the neighbors all called it the Hate-Monger Hill House. It's now a public park. Rockwell had great plans to run for president in 1972. He was assassinated in 1967. Woven into the plot is the epic fight to pass the Civil Rights Bill of 1964. Despite the efforts of the Southern segregation segregationists, and a 54-day filibuster, the bill passed and was signed into law on July 2nd, 1964. More legal battles had to be fought, but Title VII of the bill banned discrimination on the basis of race and of sex. It was life-changing for African Americans and for women. So here's what the Midwest Book Review says about my book. The House on Hate-Monger Hill offers an engrossing tale of suspense, treachery, and bad choices made for good reasons. Historical novel readers with special interest in a suspense story that embraces civil rights activism will find The House on Hate-Monger Hill hard to put down. And for another viewpoint, I just picked up one of the reviews on Amazon. Great page turner, fascinating history and characters, great historical fiction that weaves real facts about the civil rights era with an interesting cast of fictional characters. The young heroine develops from a tentative supporter to a bold activist to take on the real-life villain, Rockwell. Suspenseful and weaves in local and national history in an engaging read. So that's my book, House on Hate-Monger Hill. And thank you very much for letting me come in at the last. Happy holidays. Oh.
All right, so that's everybody, but please don't leave. We're going to open for questions in a couple of minutes, but I do want to say a few things. Our January meeting of the Chesapeake chapter of Sisters in Crime is going to be on the 8th of January at 1 p.m. We're having a panel of police people. Let's see, a retired DC police detective assigned to major crimes. Sorry about that. A former detective who supervised all homicide and violent crime investigations for Maine's largest city, and a retired lieutenant from the Alexandria, Virginia PD, who was twice named Police Officer of the Year for drug and robbery investigations, all will be speaking on a panel. So we hope that you will come out to our meeting, which will be online. I also want to say that the Chesapeake Crimes Anthology series is open for submissions for our next book. It is going to have all sports-related stories. The deadline is March 31st. And to submit, we are requiring you to be a member of the Chesapeake chapter of Sisters in Crime. And to become a member, go to www.chesachapter.org. And then finally, before we get open for open for questions, is I want to say a big thank you to our outgoing president, Karen Cantwell, and our outgoing vice president, Tara Laskowski, who led us through a very unexpected pandemic. I'm sure that is not what they had thought would be for their spotlight in the sun. I want to give a thank you to our incoming president and current secretary, Catherine Prater-Baume, our incoming vice president, Paula Mays, our incoming secretary, Sherry Randall, and our ongoing treasurer, Donna Andrews. And if anyone has any questions, now is your chance. Bueller? Anyone? Okay, Deb, it doesn't sound like we have any questions, so you might want to say what you wanted to say.
Okay, I'm going to go back over here and let's do this actually. I was going to remove your spotlight and make it speaker so that whoever is speaking is going to be who's on the screen at this point. So are you seeing me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to say that you have lots of chances to talk about mysteries. Now, I have to tell you that I'm a big mystery reader, and I host the Patrick Henry Library book club that does mysteries each month, and we meet at the Vienna Community Center. But we're not the only ones. So the Chantilly branch, the Oakton branch, Patrick Henry, as I said, and the Tysons branch all have mystery book clubs monthly, some meeting virtually and some in branch. And I'm going to put in the chat the link where you can find that, so that if you want to find out what mysteries are being read and discussed around the county in the next couple of months. There's your link. Some of them will require registration for the Zoom, and some of them that are in person may not. So that gives you a bunch of options coming up and a way to find new titles in addition to the wealth that you found today. Beyond that, if you had a question in the chat that was not answered, I'm going to suggest that you unmute yourself and just ask it, because that way you will get an answer, and we do have time to do that. Okay. Okay.
Well, I saw a question in the chat. I don't know if it was answered. Stacy, somebody wanted to know the name of your taco truck book.
Yes, it's 2 tamales, 1 tokarob, and a lifetime of broken promises. It's currently, unfortunately, only available ebook only right now. It'll come out in paper next year. So you can find it at Amazon, because I don't think Scrawl can carry it right now. So.
Anyone? Now's your chance. Okay, well, I guess we should wrap it up then. I want to thank everybody so much for coming out to our mystery author extravaganza. We will be back again next fall with a whole bunch of authors and a whole bunch of books. And the time to go shopping is now. Please support our independent bookstore, Scrawl Books. And thank you again all for coming in. Happy holidays.
Cool.